Michael Jackson, widely known as the King of Pop, was one of the most influential entertainers in music history. His sudden death on June 25, 2009, at the age of 50 in Los Angeles, shocked the world and left millions of fans in disbelief. At the time of his passing, Jackson was on the verge of what many believed would be one of the greatest comebacks in music history. A series of concerts titled This Is It, scheduled to take place in London. In the months leading up to his death, Jackson was under intense pressure. The This Is It tour was expected to be massive, with dozens of performances planned. Rehearsals were physically demanding, and the expectations placed on him were extremely high. Behind the scenes, however, Jackson was struggling with severe insomnia. Sleep had become a serious issue for him, and it affected both his health and his ability to perform. To cope with this, Jackson relied heavily on medical assistance. His personal physician, Conrad Murray, was responsible for helping him manage his condition. Over time, Murray began administering a powerful anesthetic called propofol, along with other sedatives, to help Jackson fall asleep. Propofol is not a typical sleeping aid. It is a drug usually used in hospital settings during surgeries, where patients are closely monitored. Its use outside of a medical facility, especially without proper equipment, carries serious risks. Despite these dangers, Jackson was given propofol in his home on multiple occasions. This created a highly unsafe situation. Without the proper monitoring systems that hospitals use, even a small miscalculation in dosage could have life-threatening consequences. Unfortunately, this risk became a reality on the morning of June 25, 2009.
Fire paramedic 33, what is your address of emergency?
Yes, sir. I need an ambulance as soon as possible, sir. Sir, we have a gentleman here that needs help, and he's not breathing yet. He's not breathing, and we're trying to pump him, but he's not.
Okay. How old is he?
He's 50 years old, sir.
50. Okay. Did anybody witness what happened?
No, just the doctor, sir. The doctor's been the only one here.
Okay, so the doctor see what happened?
Doctor, did you see what happened, sir? Sir, you just, if you can please.
We're on our way. I'm just passing these questions on to my paramedics while they're on the way there, sir.
Thank you, sir. He's pumping the chest, but he's not responding to anything, sir. Please.
Okay. We're on our way.
On that day, Jackson was given his usual combination of medications. At some point, he stopped breathing and went into cardiac arrest. Conrad Murray attempted to revive him, but delayed calling emergency services. When paramedics finally arrived, they worked to resuscitate Jackson before transporting him to the hospital. Despite their efforts, he was pronounced dead shortly after arrival.
Has just reported. A person with knowledge of the situation says Michael Jackson has died.
Sources, 50-year-old pop star Michael Jackson has died.
The official autopsy later revealed that Jackson's death was caused by acute propofol intoxication, combined with the effects of other sedative drugs in his system. Due to the circumstances surrounding how these drugs were administered, his death was ruled a homicide, not in the sense of intent to kill, but because it resulted from negligent medical care. The aftermath of Jackson's death led to a highly publicized investigation and trial. Conrad Murray was charged with involuntary manslaughter for his role in administering the drugs that led to Jackson's death. During the trial, it became clear that proper medical procedures had not been followed. There was a lack of appropriate monitoring equipment, and the use of propofol in a home setting was widely criticized by medical professionals. Murray was eventually found guilty and sentenced to prison, serving about 2 years of his sentence. Michael Jackson's death not only marked the loss of a global icon, but also raised serious questions about the pressures of fame and the responsibilities of medical professionals. It highlighted how dangerous it can be when powerful medications are misused, especially outside of controlled environments. His passing served as a wake-up call about the importance of proper medical care and the risks associated with dependency on such drugs. In the years since his death, Jackson's legacy has remained strong. His music continues to inspire new generations, and his influence on pop culture is still deeply felt around the world. While his life was filled with extraordinary achievements, his death remains a tragic reminder of how even the most iconic figures can face serious personal struggles behind the scenes. In conclusion, Michael Jackson's death was the result of a combination of medical negligence and the misuse of powerful drugs. It was a preventable tragedy that occurred at a time when he was preparing to return to the global stage. Though his life ended too soon, his impact on music, dance, and culture continues to live on, ensuring that his legacy will never be forgotten. Aaliyah, a rising star in music and film, died tragically on August 25, 2001, at just 22 years old. Her death came at a time when her career was reaching new heights, making the loss even more shocking for fans around the world. Aaliyah had been in the Bahamas filming a music video for her song Rock the Boat. After completing the shoot, she and her team prepared to return to the United States. The shoot took several days, so instead of waiting for a scheduled flight the next day, the group decided to leave earlier on a small private plane. Since all of them were exhausted from the shoot, the only problem is that the aircraft was not well suited for the amount of weight it was carrying. Reports later revealed that the plane was overloaded with both passengers and heavy equipment from the video shoot. Despite these concerns, the flight took off shortly after sunset. Almost immediately after takeoff, the plane began to struggle. Witnesses reported that it failed to gain proper altitude and crashed just moments after leaving the runway. The crash killed Aaliyah and 8 others on board.
The plane, just after taking off for Florida in perfect weather, suddenly plummeted to the ground. Investigators now saying one of the engines apparently failed. Along with 8 passengers, Aaliyah, a young Brooklyn native and a talented singer and actor.
Following an investigation, authorities determined that the crash was caused by multiple factors. The aircraft was significantly overweight, which made it difficult to stay airborne. In addition, the pilot was found to be unqualified to fly that particular aircraft and had substances in his system that may have impaired his ability to operate the plane safely. Aaliyah's death was ruled an accident, but it highlighted serious issues regarding aviation safety and decision-making. The tragedy could have been avoided if proper precautions had been taken, such as respecting weight limits and ensuring a qualified pilot was in control. At the time of her death, Aaliyah was more than just a singer. She was becoming a global icon. With hit songs, successful albums, and roles in films like Romeo Must Die, she was building a legacy that many believed would shape the future of R&B and pop music. Randy Rhoads. On March 19, 1982, he was on tour with Ozzy Osbourne, traveling through Leesburg. The band had stopped at a property that had a small airstrip nearby. It was early in the morning. Most people were either asleep or just waking up after a long night on the road. Their tour bus driver, who also had some flying experience, decided to take a small plane up for a quick ride. At first it didn't seem like a big deal. A couple of people went up, came back down, and everything was normal. Then, for another flight, Randy Rhoads got on board along with a makeup artist. What happened next turned a casual moment into something deadly. Instead of just flying around, the pilot began making low passes over the tour bus, getting closer each time. It was meant to be a joke, something to scare or wake up the people still inside. But flying that low leaves almost no room for error. On one of those passes, the plane got too close. It clipped the bus. In an instant, the aircraft lost control and slammed into a nearby house, exploding on impact. Everyone on board was killed immediately, including Randy Rhoads. He was just 25 years old. The entire thing happened in seconds. No warning, no time to react, just a reckless decision that went too far. Investigations later made it clear that this wasn't a mechanical failure or some unavoidable accident. It came down to the pilot's actions, flying low, trying to show off, pushing limits that shouldn't have been pushed. There were also reports that the pilot wasn't in the right condition to be flying, which only made things worse. For the band, it was devastating. Ozzy Osbourne has said many times that Randy wasn't just a guitarist, he was a once-in-a-generation talent. In a short amount of time, Rhoads had already changed the sound of heavy metal, blending classical influences with raw energy in a way no one else was doing. And then, just like that, it was over. No farewell tour, no final performance, just a random morning, a small plane, and a decision that shouldn't have been made. That's what makes his death hit differently. It wasn't part of the chaos people often associate with rock stars. It was sudden, quiet, and completely avoidable. But even though his life was cut short, Randy Rhoads' impact didn't disappear with him. His work on albums like Blizzard of Oz still inspires guitarists today, and his style is still studied decades later. In the end, his story isn't just about how he died. It's about how quickly everything can change. One moment you're in the middle of a tour, building your legacy, and the next, it's gone. Liam Payne's death didn't come with one single dramatic moment. It was the result of a slow spiral that had been building for years, mostly out of the public eye. By the time the world knew him, Liam was already part of One Direction, one of the biggest boy bands ever. Fame hit fast. Stadiums, constant travel, non-stop attention. From the outside, it looked like success. But behind that, things were a lot more complicated. After the group went on hiatus, Liam tried to figure out who he was as a solo artist. That shift wasn't easy. The structure he once had was gone, and with it, a sense of stability. Over time, he became open about struggles with alcohol, mental health, and the pressure that came with growing up in the spotlight.
There's some stuff that I've definitely never spoken about to do with it that was really, really, really severe. And it was a problem. And it was only until I saw myself after that I was like, right, I need to fix myself. There was like a few pictures of me on a boat and I'm all like bloated out, and I call it pills and booze face. And I was like this, like my face was just like 10 times more than it is now. And I just didn't like myself very much.
There were periods where he seemed to be doing better, working on music, reconnecting with fans, but there were also setbacks. Interviews and public appearances sometimes hinted that things weren't fully under control. It wasn't always obvious, but the signs were there. In 2024, news of his death broke, and it hit fans hard.
A former member of One Direction, Liam Payne, has died after falling from the 3rd floor of a hotel in Buenos Aires. Now, this is according to the Reuters.
Unlike sudden accidents or one-time events, this felt different. It felt drawn out, like something that could have gone another way. Reports around his passing pointed toward ongoing personal struggles rather than a single external incident. While the exact details weren't treated as a public spectacle, what stood out was the pattern leading up to it. Pressure, identity loss after massive fame, and difficulty adjusting to life outside of that peak moment. What makes Liam Payne's story stand out isn't just how it ended, it's how familiar it feels. A young artist rises quickly, reaches a level most people never will, and then has to deal with what comes after, often without the same support system that got them there. For fans, it wasn't just losing a celebrity, it was losing someone they watched grow up in real time, from auditions to world tours to trying to stand on his own. And that's the part that sticks, because his story isn't really about one day or one decision. It's about everything leading up to it, the pressure, the expectations, and the reality that success doesn't always come with stability. Liam Payne's legacy will always be tied to the music, the memories, and a time when One Direction felt like it was everywhere. But his story also leaves behind a quieter message, one about how important it is to look beyond the spotlight and recognize what's happening underneath it. Avicii. His songs weren't just club tracks. They felt hopeful, loud, emotional, almost freeing. Tracks like Wake Me Up and The Nights became anthems for living life to the fullest, taking chances, and making memories before time runs out, especially The Nights. The message of that song was simple. One day, you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you'll remember. That's why what happened next felt so hard for fans to understand.
Avicii, whose real name was Tim Bergling, was 28 years old. His publicist says the Swedish DJ and producer died in Muscat, Oman.
Behind the scenes, Avicii, whose real name was Tim Bergling, was struggling badly. The non-stop touring lifestyle had destroyed his health. For years, he was flying from country to country, barely resting, constantly performing in front of massive crowds. From the outside, it looked like the dream life. In reality, he was exhausted. The pressure eventually caught up to him physically and mentally. He dealt with severe stress, anxiety, and health complications linked to heavy drinking during his early touring years. At one point, he had to undergo surgery to remove his gallbladder and appendix. Even after stepping away from touring in 2016, many close to him said he still seemed lost, trying to figure out peace outside the life that made him famous.
Tim was remarkably honest about dealing with anxiety, depression. Why was he that way?
He was searching because he had anxiety, and I think that he needed something to balance this. That's why he tried to, go into thinking about life and ways to get a little calmer life, so to say.
Yeah.
Meditation and so.
Then, on April 20th, 2018, news broke that Avicii had died in Oman at just 28 years old. At first, details were unclear. Fans hoped it was some kind of mistake. But days later, statements from his family painted a darker picture. They described him as someone who had been struggling deeply with thoughts about meaning, happiness, and life itself. Eventually, reports confirmed he had taken his own life.
That Avicii died after cutting himself with a broken wine bottle and bleeding to death. His family had previously alluded to suicide but had not confirmed it, saying that Avicii couldn't go on and wanted peace. It's also been revealed that just hours before he died, Avicii, whose real name was Tim Bergling, phoned a family member who was so distressed by the call that he immediately traveled to Oman in Saudi Arabia, but arrived just 2 hours too late.
It was his 2011 hit Levels that catapulted Avicii to #1 on the dance music charts in the United States and across Europe. Avicii quickly became one of the hottest producers in the music industry. Released in 2013, Avicii's most famous song, Wake Me Up, became the most streamed song on Spotify that year.
And that's the part people still can't fully process. A person whose music pushed millions to embrace life couldn't find peace in his own. There's something especially tragic about that contrast. Songs that made people feel hopeful were created by someone privately battling pain most never saw. And honestly, that happens more often than people realize with celebrities. The version the world sees is usually the performance, not the full reality. After his death, fans went back to his music and started hearing it differently. Lyrics that once sounded uplifting suddenly felt heavier, more personal, like someone trying to convince himself of the same advice he was giving everyone else.
I want to dedicate this award. We want to dedicate this award to Avicii. None of us would be here. I know everyone that was nominated for this award was massively influenced by him. He is someone who made us believe that this was something, a realistic career, something we could do with our lives, inspired all of us, influenced our music, influenced pop music, music in general, and he will be missed, and I hope you're somewhere. I hope you found peace, and we love you. Thank you.
Even now, Avicii's music continues to play everywhere. Festivals, road trips, parties, late-night drives. And maybe that's why his death still hits so hard, because his songs are tied to good memories for so many people. But behind those songs was someone quietly falling apart while trying to keep everyone else inspired.